Welcome once again, everybody. Cannabis News. I'm your host, Joe Klare. It is April 11th, 2019. The show, as always, is presented by the Marijuana Times. Check us out at marijuanatimes.org. Click the video tab there to find the show. A bunch of great articles as well. Social media links and more. Check us out, marijuanatimes.org. You can also search Marijuana Times on YouTube and Vimeo for the video, and for the audio podcast, Apple Podcasts. Find it there today. Talking about the black market in Massachusetts, and then a garbage editorial from the Washington Times, and then a garbage ruling out of a Florida court. A lot of garbage in today's show. But before we get to all that, Cannabis News is brought to you by Natureside, nature-side.com, and their organic, all-natural pesticides. Make sure you're growing safe and poison-free. You're not using banned pesticides. You're not using harmful chemicals on what you are growing. You can do all of these things and accomplish all these goals with Natureside, nature-side.com. Check out their organic, all-natural pesticides, a proud sponsor of Cannabis News. This first story by Julia Granowitz at marijuanatimes.org. Massachusetts illegal sales thrive as legal cannabis shops are inaccessible and overpriced. I realize this is an issue we've talked about a lot on this show, and it's an issue we'll continue to talk about, this notion that legalization automatically creates the destruction of the black market. It doesn't work that way. Economics will create the destruction, or at least the degradation of the black market. The best way, of course, Julia points out, to get people to go to the legal market is to offer a product that is the same or better in quality for a similar or lower price and with more convenience. It seems the Massachusetts legal retail industry has missed all of these marks. We're seeing the opposite of that, said Maggie Kinsella, press secretary for the Massachusetts Cannabis Reform Coalition. Quote, the whole reason was to prevent diversion to the illicit market, but people are going there because the cost is not realistic. Heavy regulations, high taxes, low supply, all of these things come together to make, in some cases, like, for instance, according to the Boston Herald, the average price of an eighth on the black market in Massachusetts is about $25. To purchase this from a dispensary, it would double that price to about $50, and that's before the 17 to 20% taxes are included. So you can see there's a huge discrepancy, and people are not going to go buy legal marijuana just to pay a lot more if they have a reliable person or people that they get marijuana from on the black market. They're not going to make the switch. They have to have incentives to make the switch. It's just not automatic, and I think a lot of people think that it is, and that is where a lot of problems come in. This next story, did I say Washington Times? I believe I said earlier for the op-ed, is actually the Washington Examiner. That is my bad. Not that it matters, other than giving credit where credit is due, but whoever wrote it, it would be incredibly wrong. It's linked in the description of this video, as are all stories I talk about. There's a lot of, the whole thing is basically just a pile of cherry-picked studies, all linked basically to the United States government. All these studies are coming from the United States government, that bastion of truth and scientific integrity. And here's some of the things that you can expect if you want to read this whole editorial. A new study published in The Lancet, a highly respected medical journal, found that high-potency marijuana can make you psychotic. Remember that. In fact, about half of all cases of psychosis in Amsterdam could have been prevented. Quote, if high-potency cannabis were no longer available, the data suggest. So we've gone from it makes you psychotic to this is what the data suggests. The study doesn't prove causality, but it certainly suggests it may be there. Let's go back to that sentence I told you to remember. A highly respected medical journal found that high-potency marijuana can make you psychotic. Make you is another way of saying cause you to be psychotic, implying causality. You see, you have to go from can make you psychotic to the data suggests to it doesn't prove causality, but it certainly suggests it may be there. It suggests it may be there. In just a space of a couple sentences, they've gone from, oh, weed makes you crazy to there may be some data that may suggest that it may be possible that weed may make you psychotic. Of course, a lot of people have pointed out that a lot of these findings can be due to the fact that people who are prone to psychosis are looking for ways to self-medicate and for substances that they can do that with, and that draws them to marijuana. Of course, none of that is mentioned in this article at all. It's all studies that point to marijuana somehow being dangerous or bad for your health. I could write the same article the opposite direction. It could be 10 times longer with 10 times the links to studies that say the exact opposite. But here we are The Washington Examiner doesn't buy any of that. How about this? Despite myths to the contrary, marijuana is a serious health risk. Absolutely nothing to prove that whatsoever. It does indeed result in a healthy dependence among nearly 1/3 of users. It's not true. One of the studies, the major study, shows the dependence rate at around 9%, which is not a third. But even that, it doesn't matter. It's a definite risk, perhaps deadly for lung health. No one's ever gotten lung cancer or died from marijuana or smoking marijuana. And it's especially dangerous for heart health. These are all studies linked from the United States government. Some studies also show that it substantially increases risk for a form of testicular cancer. Again, more cherry-picked studies. I can find studies that say the exact opposite. Write a big, long article, but it doesn't matter. Because even if all of these things were true, none of it is a reason to keep marijuana illegal. None of it is a reason to criminalize people who are not infringing on the rights of anyone else. It is it's a garbage op-ed. If you want to go check it out, look at the science to stop the march toward legalized medical marijuana. They're not looking at the science, they're looking at the science that they agree with, and then going with that, ignoring everything else. This last story is from the Orlando Sentinel. You're giving me a lot of pop-ups. Thank you, Orlando Sentinel, for that. It's whoops, now I gotta see. You've thrown me off, Orlando Sentinel. With your pop-ups have thrown me off. They derailed my train of thought. Florida court rejects homegrown medical marijuana for Tampa strip club owner. Tampa strip club owner Joe Redner doesn't have the legal right to grow his own medical marijuana to combat lung cancer, the appeals court ruled Wednesday. This was earlier this month. The decision by the First District Court of Appeal overturned a ruling by Leon Circuit Judge Karen Gevers, who last year gave Redner the go-ahead to grow marijuana for juicing purposes. Now, this article goes into a lot of the ins and outs of the constitutional amendment and the ballot measure and the law surrounding growing medical marijuana or marijuana in Florida. But really, the only paragraph out of the decision, there's one paragraph from the decision that encapsulates all of the problem with this. All of the problems with this. Quote, without the ability to regulate the cultivation practices of qualified patients, the department would not be able to ensure that qualified patients are safely using marijuana. End quote. In other words, this could be used to ban home growing everywhere across the country because people growing at home would not allow whatever department that regulates marijuana and marijuana safety to ensure the safety of what they are growing. The only way that safety could be ensured, I would assume, is that you allow people into your home to test your plants. But here's the problem. Because a lot of people look at this paragraph and say to themselves, oh, well, that's reasonable. That's reasonable. You can't grow marijuana because the regulatory agency of the government can't ensure its safety. Glossing over the fact that it doesn't matter. If you are growing marijuana in your home and you're using that marijuana in your home, you are not infringing on the rights of anyone else. Therefore, it is no one's business. Certainly not the local government, the state government, the federal government, courts, law enforcement, bureaucrats, lawmakers. The list goes on and on. None of them have any business worrying about what you are growing and consuming in your house. I don't care what it is. And the fact that we've lost that is the problem. It encapsulates the entire problem. You can't grow marijuana in your house because the government can't ensure it's safe for you to use. That's the whole problem. And they'll use that to say marijuana can't be grown anywhere. I guarantee you this ruling will be used as a precedent in another state for the very same thing, to invalidate home growing. And for those of you out there that love the government and want them to pay all your bills and help you with everything and be your protector and your security blanket, and then they come along and say, well, no, you can't grow marijuana in your house, and you go, whoa, you're overstepping your bounds. Are they? Are they? You've invited them into every aspect of your daily life. Yes, pay for this, do this, take care of this. I don't want to do it. I don't want to take care of it. I don't want to pay for it. You can't grow marijuana in your house. Oh, tyranny, 1984. Oh my God. Tyranny. Stop it. No. You let them control your life, they're going to control your life. They think it's perfectly reasonable to say you can't grow a plant in your house because they can't ensure that it's safe enough for you to use. They think that's reasonable. Anyone else who thinks that's reasonable has contributed to the problem. It's not reasonable. I don't care if I grow a plant that's full of mold and I smoke it and it makes me sick. It's none of your business. None of your business. Now, of course, when we get into the, if I go to the hospital and you have to pay for that, then it does become your business. But again, as I've said, if I eat too many Big Macs and have a heart attack, that becomes your business too. Do we ban McDonald's? Where does that stop? Where does the society as a victim angle stop? It's none of your business what I'm doing in my house. Leave me alone. Leave these medical marijuana patients alone. These people are sick. They can't get to a dispensary, a lot of them. Not that it matters what the reason is. They shouldn't need a reason, but there are reasons, nonetheless. But the government can't ensure your safety inside your own home, so you can't do things inside your own home. I mean, that logic could be used to ban knives. I don't know if you're safe with a knife. What are you cutting, a steak? What if you cut your finger off? No, here's a plastic butter knife. You work on that. That's all you're allowed to have. No steel knives. It's crazy. You're crazy. Stop it. Can't ensure your safety in your house. Government. It's important. Thanks, everybody. Checking out the show. We're here 5 days a week. MarijuanaTimes.org, YouTube, Vimeo, as I said, source of Marijuana Times. Thank you to Natureside, nature-side.com, and their organic, all-natural pesticides. Thank you all for watching, listening, sharing, and commenting, and all that. We'll see you next time right here on Cannabis News.